น้องๆทุกคนนะคะแล้วก็สวัสดีน้องๆแฟนคลับของ IDP นะคะอาจจะเคยร่วมงานอีเวนต์และสัมมนาต่างๆกับ IDP มาหลายๆครั้งแล้วเนาะก็หวังว่ายังไม่เบื่อกันนะคะก็วันนี้ก็ถือว่าเป็นฤกษ์งามยามดีต้อนรับต้นปี 2022 เลยนะคะก็กับการงานสัมมนาออนไลน์เรียนต่อแคนาดานะคะกับมหาวิทยาลัยชื่อดังนะคะจากแคนาดาเลยเนาะ University of Alberta นะคะก็น้องๆหลายคนอาจจะคุ้นเคยกันดีนะคะสำหรับมหาวิทยาลัยท็อปแห่งนี้นะคะก็สำหรับในวันนี้นะคะทาง IDP นะคะก็ได้เรียนเชิญนะคะเจ้าหน้าที่นะคะจากมหาวิทยาลัย University of Alberta นะคะจะมีคุณแคทเธอรีนนะคะก็ในวันนี้นะคะคุณแคทเธอรีนเนี่ยจะมาให้ข้อมูลนะคะเกี่ยวกับการเรียนต่อด้านปริญญาตรีที่ University of Alberta นะคะแล้วก็จะมีคุณนิโคนะคะก็จะมาให้ข้อมูลเกี่ยวกับด้านการเรียนต่อด้านปริญญาโทนะคะ postgraduate นะคะแล้วก็ในส่วนของเรื่องของ PhD ด้วยเนาะค่ะก็สำหรับในส่วนของ University of Alberta นะน้องๆหลายๆคนอาจจะคุ้นเคยนะคะแต่ถ้าน้องๆหลายคนเนี่ยอาจจะเพิ่งเข้ามาแล้วก็แบบอยากรู้เกี่ยวกับมหาวิทยาลัยนี้นะคะก็ต้องบอกว่ามหาวิทยาลัยนี้นะคะ University of Alberta เนี่ยเป็นมหาวิทยาลัยท็อป5ในแคนาดาเลยนะคะก็วันนี้เนี่ยจะมีทั้งข้อมูลในส่วนของการเรียนต่อด้านปริญญาตรีนะคะด้านปริญญาโทเนาะแล้วก็จะมีแนะนำสาขามาแรงกันด้วยนะคะพร้อมเผยข้อมูลในเรื่องของอาชีพการงานนะคะที่ค่อนข้างเป็นที่ต้องการในแคนาดานะคะก็แล้วก็จะมีในส่วนของสิทธิ์ในการทำงานหลังเรียนจบนะคะในส่วนของน้องที่หลายคนอาจจะคุ้นเคยกันดีนะคะกับคำว่า PGWP เนาะก็ตรงนี้นะคะทางมหาวิทยาลัยเนี่ยก็จะมาให้ข้อมูลตรงส่วนนี้ด้วยนะคะในระหว่างที่ทางเจ้าหน้าที่นะคะได้ทำการสัมมนาหรือว่าให้ข้อมูลอยู่นั้นถ้าน้องๆท่านใดนะคะต้องการมีคำถามเนาะอยากจะถามนะคะเกี่ยวกับตัวหลักสูตรเองเกี่ยวกับสาขาวิชานั้นๆหรือมีคำถามเกี่ยวกับว่าจะต้องเตรียมตัวยังไงนะคะมีเกณฑ์การรับสมัครยังไงนะคะก็น้องๆสามารถที่จะฝากคำถามไว้ในห้องของแชทบ็อกซ์ได้เลยตรงแชทบ็อกซ์หรือว่าเมสเสจเข้ามานะคะทางพี่เนี่ยทางพี่พึ่งเองนะคะก็จะมีพี่แนะแนวนะคะของประเทศแคนาดาเลยเนาะก็คือจะมีพี่พึ่งนะคะพี่แนนนะคะแล้วก็จะมีพี่แพรนะคะที่จะคอยตอบคำถามน้องๆอยู่ในห้องแชทบ็อกซ์เนาะแต่ว่าถ้าหลังจากที่สัมมนาจบแล้วเนี่ยหลังจากที่ถ้าคุณแคทเธอรีนและคุณนิโคลเนี่ยให้ข้อมูลเราเสร็จเรียบร้อยแล้วนะคะเราก็จะมีในช่วงของ Q&A ตอนท้ายด้วยนะคะก็อาจจะฝากน้องๆนะคะดูในเรื่องของการสัมมนาอาจจะดูจนจบก่อนก็ได้เนาะเพื่อเผื่อที่ว่าคำถามที่น้องๆอยากจะถามเนี่ยมันมีคำตอบอยู่ในระหว่างที่เขากำลังให้ข้อมูลอยู่แล้วนะคะค่ะก็ตรงส่วนนี้น่ะก็ยังไงตอนท้ายเนี่ยเรามา Q&A กันได้นะคะก็ยังไงแล้วไม่แน่ใจเลยว่าน้องๆพร้อมกันแล้วหรือยังนะคะก็วันนี้ตื่นเต้นมากเลยเพราะว่าตอนนี้ที่แคนาดาเนี่ยจริงๆเราก็ค่อนข้างดึกมากๆสำหรับเขาแล้วนะคะก็ต้องแบบยินดีมากๆเลยที่ได้ University of Alberta มาให้ข้อมูลกับนักเรียนไทยแบบ IDP นะคะค่ะ Hi Nicole and Katherine Yeah, welcome to our IDP webinar. So it's really my pleasure to work with you, and it's like really happy that you to share the information about your university and your program to our Thai students.
So thank you so much for the introduction. We're really excited to be here. I think it's been a long time in the making, so we're glad to finally make it happen, and we appreciate students taking time out of their Saturday to come and meet with us. So yes, I'm Katherine Melnyk. I'm the international recruitment for South and Southeast Asia. I work with undergrad applicants, and so what I mean by undergraduate is students applying to bachelor's degree programs. So whether you're coming from high school or you're a transfer student, I'd be able to give you advice on that today. And I'm here with Nicole.
Yeah, so my name is Nicole Dewart. I am a senior coordinator with the sponsored student program, which I will talk a little bit about later. But my job today is to talk to you a bit about postgraduate studies at the University of Alberta, so master's and PhD programs.
And between the two of us, you're in good hands. We've got a lot of information to share. So what we're going to do is give you a quick overview of starting with Canada, in case it's maybe a new country that you're looking at for destinations, talk a bit about Edmonton, where we're located. We're going to give you an overview on the campus and its faculties and programs, admission requirements for both bachelor's and master's PhD. We're going to talk a little bit about the sponsored student program that Nicole runs. We're going to look a bit more at the university in general, including the support services we offer for students. And then IDP will be moderating the Q&A at the end. So we're in for a good time, everyone. So first and foremost, where are we located? We are in a city called Edmonton, which is the capital of the province of Alberta, which is located in Western Canada. So we are not close to Thailand, very close at all. I promise you, Canada has a lot to offer. Edmonton does too, and so it's worth the travel over. I have not been to Bangkok. I visited the IDP office there, I want to say fall of 2016. So it's been a couple of years. I'd love to come back when things open up again. We'll see how that goes. So a bit about Canada, and there are some facts that you can take time to read over. Canada is a massive country. So fun fact, it can take 7 days to drive from coast to coast. That's like full, like 14-hour days of driving, super long days. We've got a lot between our borders too. It's a very diverse, very multicultural country. I think a lot of international students choose Canada because it has a great education system. We'll talk a bit more about what that means for you, Alberta, in a minute here. But also because we have a strong healthcare system, and we offer a lot of opportunities for students after they graduate to stay back in Canada and work for a few years, perhaps immigrate, more long-term opportunities as well. So as I mentioned, our capital city is called Edmonton. We're over 1 million people. I'd say 1.2 to 1.5 if you include the surrounding areas. I think what's lovely about Edmonton is if most of you are in Bangkok, we don't have anywhere near the traffic that you have in Bangkok. Certainly not even in other parts of Thailand. Like I've driven around and it can be quite busy. And so I think that students like that they can live in a capital city and benefit from being like at a modern hub with a proper downtown. And the university is very close to all of that. But you still have the freedom of being very close to urban green spaces. We are known as Canada's festival city. So we have events going on year round. Even last week, because it is winter here in Canada right now, surprise, surprise, we did have it's called an ice festival, and basically people make ice carvings, and it's an opportunity to go out even in winter and be outdoors and celebrating. And then a couple of great things about Alberta, I think especially relevant to international students, is that we have some of the highest salaries across Canada and some of the lowest taxes, both income and sales. And I think what it means for you is that you can earn a little bit more here and keep a little bit more of it just because of the favorable tax system. And I think Edmonton is a very affordable city for students and recent graduates. Nicole and I both went to the University of Alberta, so we can speak a lot to that, to having attended and then established our lives here in the city as well. So I mentioned about the festivals. Again, that green space. So within about 2-minute walk from campus is 150 kilometers of connected trails that kind of they cut the city in half along the river. And so if you're familiar with Central Park in New York City, it's 19 times the size of Central Park, like right in the middle of a 1.5 million urban population, there for you year round. And I like to show this aerial photo. So this is our campus. This is our main campus. It's 50 city square blocks. It is absolutely massive. Buildings are kind of grouped according to subject or topic or faculty. So you have like engineering in one corner, arts in another corner near to business, and sciences is kind of in the middle, education towards the top. We've got the hospital here, as well as all of your sports and recreation services. But you can again see on the very bottom that kind of road right there. Once you cross that road, you're in the river valley. And we're about 5-minute train ride to downtown and a 10-minute bus ride to what's called White Avenue, which is where you're going to find your great shopping, your great restaurants and cafes.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the university in general. So we have a student population of just over 42,000 students from 159 different countries. So of that population, over 7,000 of those students are international students. So very diverse student population. And then if you look even just within the grad student population, so your master's and PhD students, 40% of all grad students here are international students. So you're going to be interacting with students and faculty from around the world. We are among the top 5 universities in Canada and on the top 100 in the world. So a lot of really excellent, well-recognized programs, some of which rank, among the top 10 in the world. So for example, our research and studies in artificial intelligence are ranked number 2 in the world, along with programs like paleontology, earth sciences, programs in nursing, education are really, well recognized. I'll also just highlight our ranking in graduate employment rates. We're number 2 in Canada. And so what that means is that employers in Canada kind of recognize the value of a University of Alberta graduate. And so you're more likely to find a job quickly after your graduation. Okay. And we are very proud of our faculty members here on campus. They are excellent researchers. An example of this is Dr. Michael Houghton, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2020 for his research on the hepatitis C virus, which he discovered. And it's now leading to, it's led to cures and additional studies and screening tools. And so this is all done at our 𝐔𝐧𝐢𝐯𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐢 Institute, which is one of the top facilities in Canada for virology. So this is just one example of some of the excellent research that's being done here in some of the top facilities that we have.
Nicole, first of all,
yeah.
Thank you for saying his last name, because I've said it a few different ways myself, I have to admit. But I wanted to share this fun fact. When I was learning more about this institute, because a lot of students ask about it, apparently when it was opened, like at the opening ceremony, the speeches acknowledged that the next big pandemic was around the corner, about 12 years ago now. The next big pandemic was coming. We didn't know what it'd be and we didn't know when, but we needed institutes like the 𝐔𝐧𝐢𝐯𝐴 Institute of Virology to be already built and ready to kind of respond to whatever's going on. So
yeah,
they, I think the latest thing they're working on is a vaccine that wouldn't need cold storage like many of the well-known vaccines do today. That would be especially useful in countries where cold storage is not always easy to come by, where it's hot all the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and they're doing some excellent work on some kind of locally made COVID-19 vaccines right here. So yeah, excellent work there. So a little bit about our campuses. So the North Campus is our main campus here in Edmonton. So like the photo that Catherine showed, the one kind of right next to the river valley. So this is our main campus where the vast majority of students do their studies, undergraduate and graduate. So there's about 36,000 students on this main campus. And like Catherine said, it's kind of divided up kind of by subject area is where you will find the different buildings on campus. And then we have Augustana campus in the city of Camrose, which is about an hour drive from Edmonton. It's just southeast of Edmonton. It's a small city of about 17,000 people. So a very small campus, so about 1,000 students. So if you're wanting a very different university experience, kind of a small time feel. All students in their first year live in residence on campus. It's primarily just undergraduate programs, but it gives you a very different experience, especially if you're kind of wanting that, you know, small class size and really kind of getting to know more people on campus. And then we have our campus Saint-Jean, which is our French campus, which is also here in Edmonton. It's just a short, you know, 10-15 minute bus ride from main campus. And all of our resident campuses have all the facilities that you would need as a student, such as residences, sports facilities, student services. So these are all on each campus. So here is another shot of our North Campus, or the main campus. So you can see kind of the big green space. So that is our quad. This is kind of the main hub where a lot of student activities happen. So, you know, at the start of every year, this is a very active, busy place. People learning about different clubs, events, getting to know each other, kind of welcome activities. We have little concerts in this area. And so you can kind of see the brick buildings around the edge here are kind of some of the oldest, the first, you know, university buildings on this campus. And then you see them kind of surrounded by these new modern facilities on the outside. So you can see how campus has kind of grown throughout the years.
That's my favorite part of campus too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the program offerings and what kind of academic fields we cover at the University of Alberta. So first and foremost, we are a large, comprehensive research-focused institution. So the link here you see, uab.ca/programs, is a link for undergraduate studies, and we will come to postgraduate in a few minutes here. So 200 plus bachelor's degree programs to choose from across 16 undergraduate degree faculties. So there is a lot of choice. And I'll take a minute to just show you the different kind of degree options we offer. One of the really cool things about our degrees is that they're very customizable. So if you're coming in with the idea that you want to do maybe an honors in astrophysics, well, that's great. We have an honors in astrophysics. If you're looking at perhaps you're in high school today, or you're just starting out on university, and you know you want to go to university or come to University of Alberta, and you're not quite sure what your field would be yet, and that's totally okay, because a lot of our programs do have like general entry options, as well as maybe even undeclared majors for a little while to help you kind of get into the programs, start taking some courses and getting a better feel for what you like. So here we have what we call direct entry faculties. So what we mean by direct entry is that you are able to apply to these faculties and their programs directly from high school. So you'll see that our pharmacy program is the exception. The pharmacy program is the exception. It's a professional degree program, so you need at least 2 years of studies first, typically in the Faculty of Science. So we're going to go through some of the more common faculties and give you an overview of the programs and the fields of research that are done in each of those faculties, but this is kind of, again, a general overview. If you have questions about how the faculties are divided, do let me know. I will say, for example, a lot of these faculties offer a Bachelor of Science degree. And one of the things that I would say is the most common question I get is for computing science, because we have a computing science degree, which is under the Faculty of Science. And within that computing science program, there's about 11 or 12 choices or combinations you can do according to how specialized you want to be. And then we also have a computer engineering program within the Faculty of Engineering, and they have a software option as well. So if you're having questions about maybe what your area of interest is, that could be a great thing that we can help you with, and IDP can help counsel as well. So again, these are the full list of 18 faculties, including the options for graduate or second degree programs. So we're kind of a unique university in that we actually have a dedicated faculty with services and support for all graduate students. So even if you're looking at, let's say, like an MBA program that's run by the School of Business, you're still working with the Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, especially in terms of the application process. And some of our faculties, for example, public health, occupational therapy, rehabilitation medicine, those are all master's degree or higher only. We don't have them available at the undergraduate level.
Yeah, so we'll talk about just some of the faculties. We obviously don't have time to kind of go through all of them. So we picked just some of the top ones that some of you might be interested in, just so we can go into a little bit more detail. So one faculty we get asked a lot about is the Faculty of Engineering. So for undergraduate studies, students entering engineering all enter, they take the same courses and the same kind of program in their first year. So that's what's called your qualifying year. So you're taking courses in things like math, statistics, chemistry, physics, kind of a variety of the sciences. And then based on kind of how you do in that qualifying year, you then kind of transfer over to a specialization in your second year. So it's 1 year qualifying and then 3 years in your specialization. So lots of different specializations you can choose from. So these are just some examples like chemical, civil, computer, electrical, mechanical, mining and petroleum are some of among the top 20 in the world. Lots of programs are nanotechnology are becoming very popular as well. And our Faculty of Engineering has a great co-op program. It's the second largest in Canada. So if you are wanting to kind of incorporate some work experience into your degree program, you can kind of extend your degree a bit to have that opportunity to work in either industry, government, things like that. In terms of graduate programs, they have both, for most of the departments, they have a course-based master's, so a master's of engineering, or a thesis-based master's, so that's a master's of science. And then they all have the PhD programs as well, which include some pretty unique specializations like engineering management. And Catherine, if there's anything I'm missing about any undergrad stuff, feel free to jump in. So our Faculty of Science, another very popular choice. So we have 7 different departments, and among those 30 different majors. So like Catherine was saying, tons of different specializations you can choose from. So biology, chemistry, computing science, earth and atmospheric sciences, math, physics, and psychology. And psychology is one of those unique ones where you can kind of go either the science or arts route, kind of depending on where your interests lie. And so these science degrees have 3 different routes you can take. So you can do just a general science degree, or you can do a specialization where you're really focused. You take more courses, there's a bit more expectations on one specialization, or you can choose the honors route as well. Our Faculty of Science has a lot of excellent programs to choose from as well that are well recognized. Like I mentioned, our paleontology program is top 3 in the world, and geology is among the top 5 in the world. And our Faculty of Science has some pretty unique master's programs as well. So urban and regional planning, as well as integrated petroleum geosciences. So these are some kind of course-based masters that are more professional and give you some unique experiences in that field. And then Faculty of Agricultural, Life and Environmental Sciences. This is a very diverse faculty that, as the slide says, it focuses on everything related to life sciences. So programs related to agriculture, food business management, food science. We also have some programs in renewable resources. I don't think it's on there, but our forestry program is among the top in the world as well. It's really well recognized. Land reclamation, environmental economics, and one of my favorites, it's a really unique program in human ecology. So they touch on really unique things related to kind of the studies of families and relationships, clothing, textiles, fashion business, things like that. And so they have some pretty excellent opportunities if you want to incorporate some experiential learning into your program as well.
So another popular faculty on campus is our Alberta School of Business. So at the undergraduate level, they offer the Bachelor of Commerce. And these are one of the faculties that you can apply to directly from high school. The faculty and the program is ranked one of the top 100 in the world. They do have 4 main areas of focus. So entrepreneurship, energy, and the environment. You're going to see that topic come up a lot at the university. If you know geography, you'll know that in Alberta, we have the oil sands up north, and we have a huge amount of industry partnership with both oil and alternative energy sources as well. So we're diversifying. It's a very cool, very popular field these days. International business, and we actually have a focus on both East Asian studies as well as Latin American studies. And the international business major actually encourages you to do a semester of either study or work abroad, and they help line that up. It's super awesome to see the exchange students that come and the experiences that students have when they go abroad for those 4 to 8 months. And then of course, leadership. But you have your traditional majors, so you have accounting, finance, commerce, business studies, management, supply chain. You've also got, as I mentioned, international business, human resources, marketing. It's a very broad faculty within the scope of commerce. And they also have a co-op program. I think co-op is a very popular option these days, just because, as you can see, you get up to 3 placements, and these are going to be with either one or multiple companies in the area, maybe across Canada, maybe internationally. And when we say co-op or internship in Canada, it's always a paid work experience. And I think that's a huge selling point. So at the graduate level, so graduate meaning master's, PhD, or postgraduate, you might be more familiar with. The most common choice is the MBA. Just to let everyone know here, so the MBA is a professional degree, of course, and it typically requires minimum 3 years work experience. So if you are thinking of going that route, just be aware that typically in Canada, you'll find work experience is commonly required for most MBA programs, ours included. We also have a Master of Financial Management, and there's a Master of Accounting too, if I'm correct, Nicole. Yeah, that's the one I don't get that question as often. And we do have PhD programs in business as well. So for the MBA, it's a very collaborative program. It's largely course-based. There are research opportunities. And I think what's cool, and I'll pull up the next slide as well. I think often when people think of research, they think STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and medicine. And it's true. We do a lot of research in those areas, but our research budget annually is over 150 million Canadian dollars. So that's a lot of money that we put into solely research, not like operating or salary or anything like that. And research happens across all faculties, all levels. So undergraduate business, undergraduate art students can be doing research the same as any graduate students in their research programs. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart as a top institution. And what contributes to our ranking is that ability for students to be involved in research and also have their professors be leading in their field. In the morning, they're teaching their courses, but in the afternoon, they're going out and going back to whatever their version of a lab is and contributing to their field every single day. So Faculty of Arts is a very broad faculty. It encompasses humanities, social sciences, fine arts. It's kind of like a liberal arts type program, depending on what you want to do with your degree and your studies there. They also have paid work options. At the undergraduate level, especially popular programs would be criminology, economics, psychology. We have a new media studies program as well, political science. Planning refers to like human geography and city planning. And the arts faculty also has both master's and PhD, largely research-based. So if you have questions about admission to arts faculties, we can point you in the right direction for that too. So what I'm going to first do is give you, and again, so this timeline applies to undergraduate students, and Nicole will talk in a little bit about the timeline for applying to master's PhD. They can look very different. So application for this fall, and fall is our only intake, it's a September start. Application opened 1st October, and the deadline to apply is 1st of March. So you still have a couple of weeks here if you're looking at applying to a bachelor's degree program to get your application in for this September. Otherwise, maybe you're here to kind of learn a bit more, get some more information, and that's totally okay too. We also have, we're going to talk a little bit, but there is a deadline to apply for guaranteed housing on campus as well if you're an incoming student who's new to the university. So that's April 30th. Typically, and especially if you're working through IDP, you're going to get a lot of support in your application. We will help you in terms of the kind of documents that we need and what that timeline means for your course schedule. Generally, the deadline to submit your final documents would be August 1 if you're a high school student. It is June 15 if you're transferring, so a little bit earlier. With COVID, we know that schools are open, schools are closed, schools are open, and then they're closed again. So if you have questions about that timeline, we'd be happy to work with you. Yeah, and so I'm going to give you a quick overview of admission to a bachelor's degree program. And so with the bachelor's degree program, the requirements are fairly straightforward and they're kind of common across all of our 200 plus programs. So in general, we're looking for a competitive average in 5 subjects plus proof of English language proficiency. So I'll talk about English language proficiency on the next slide. But looking at those 5 subjects, if you are studying in either maybe a national high school or a private school, we will look at either your grade 11 final or your grade 12 midterm, first semester, half year results. So you would actually apply when you're still in your grade 12 before you finish. And we actually make the initial evaluation. And then all we'd need to finalize your offer is your final results when they're available in spring, summer. So if you have finished high school, we would actually look for your completed high school results. So that's your full transcript and proof that you completed. And then if you are a transfer student here, we generally look for your high school results as well as a recent copy of your university transcript. If you are looking to transfer, I would say get in touch with us or IDP as soon as possible. We do admit transfer students depending on the faculty. Some are really easy. Engineering and other faculties and programs can be a little bit more difficult. I'll be upfront. So it's best to get in touch directly just so we can clarify on requirements and timeline for transfer students. And then just in case any of you are applying from maybe like a private British school, so A levels, or you're going to an IB or international baccalaureate school, or maybe an American school with AP curriculum as well. We do have good information on our website about what the admission requirements would look like. So for example, we don't require 5 A-level subjects, we require 3. I do see the occasional student who takes 5, and it's really impressive because 3 is pretty standard across the world. So if you're taking A-levels, we look for 3 subjects. You can check with us or IDP what those 3 subjects would be. For both A-level and IB, we do consider predicted scores as well, typically issued after 1st of March. So if you've already applied this year, we'll be looking at those pretty soon. And we actually offer final admission with predicted scores, which is something kind of unique to University of Alberta. And I like that because it gives you kind of certainty or guarantee that no matter how you do in your A-levels IB, you'd be still okay for admission. And then, as I mentioned, the other requirement is proof of English language proficiency. So we have a couple of ways to meet it. So I'll let you take a minute and just note either IELTS, TOEFL, or Duolingo. So these scores apply to most of our bachelor's degree programs. You might find, for example, nursing or education also has a spoken proficiency requirement. So they'll check on your test that you have usually a bit of a higher score in the like speaking related bands on those 3 tests. This is not a comprehensive list of all the ways that we accept proof of English language proficiency. They're perhaps the more common ways. So if you're doing A-level or IB, we can use that as well. If you've done AP from high school, we can also use that. Or perhaps you've gone to another private school, you might be able to meet your English requirement with 3 years of instruction there. Nicole, I think you talking a little bit about English proficiency for grad studies, is that correct? Because
yeah, so a lot of these, so our Faculty of Graduate Studies, they set kind of a minimum that students must meet. And so these minimums are the same that Catherine has on this slide here for undergraduate. However, I'll just emphasize that some departments, kind of depending on what program you want to apply to, will request a higher English score. So for example, I know our dentistry programs, they require IELTS 7.5. Some of our engineering programs require around an IELTS 7. So it's really, for graduate studies, it's really dependent on which program you're applying to. If you did a degree at an institution where English was the primary language, most departments will consider that, but it's really up to the department that you're applying to if they want to see a test score.
Yep, so I think the bottom line would be you can use this as kind of a general guideline or overview. Yeah. Depending on your program or level of study, the website and department would have the most up-to-date information on if they have any additional requirements and what those might be. Oop, did I skip a slide? No.
No, good, thanks. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about some things that you need to take into consideration before applying for postgraduate studies. So, you know, Catherine had kind of gone through that timeline, which looks very different for postgraduate, again, depending on what program you're applying to. So each department, they have their own separate deadlines, their own admission requirements. It's all really quite varied. So for example, I know right now for September 22 admission, our Faculty of Education, all of those deadlines have pretty much passed. law, that deadline has passed. There's other deadlines that are currently coming up quite quickly. But programs like, engineering might have deadlines in April or May. So again, it's just best to check the website of the department that you want to do your master's or PhD in. I always recommend, starting this process about a year before you want to start your studies. And again, it's important to check the website of the department to see when they actually will admit students. So all departments will admit for September admission, and some that will be their only start date, whereas others might have a January start date. That's the second most common. And then there's fewer departments that will admit students for spring or summer admission. So it's good to check with the department to see what they have for start dates, and then decide when you want to start, and then kind of look into that process and get going on collecting all your documents and things about a year in advance. In terms of admission requirements, so all departments are going to primarily look at your GPA and your English score. So for GPA, they are only going to look at your most recent 2 years of full-time studies. So if you had a rough first year of your undergraduate studies, we all have, don't worry. They're not going to take that into consideration. They're just focusing on your most recent 2 years, and they want to see a GPA of at least a 3 out of 4 during those 2 years. For English, I kind of went over this already. That's just kind of the minimum score, but please check with your department to see if they have a higher requirement. Same with GPA. Some departments might have a higher GPA requirement, especially for PhD studies. Like I know in education, PhD, they're typically looking at a 3.5 out of 4. Economics usually requires a bit higher as well. Another point I just want to emphasize, for master's or PhD, you need to think about whether you need to find a supervising professor before you apply. So if you're doing or wanting to do a course-based master's, this isn't necessary because you would just be doing courses and a little final project at the end. You don't need a professor to supervise that. If you're wanting to do a research-based master's or a PhD, you need to have a professor who agrees to supervise you. And I always recommend to arrange that before you pay $135 to submit your application. I wouldn't want you to apply and then find out afterwards that there's no professors available to take new grad students in your area of interest. So it's good to start that communication with professors before you submit your application. And then some other things to consider. So as I was saying, it's good to check the website of the department you want to apply to see if they have any other admission requirements. So for example, if you were wanting to study a MBA or PhD in business, they're going to want to see a GMAT or GRE score as well as economics, psychology. They all want to see a GRE score. I would say a GRE probably more common in American universities. Not very common at the University of Alberta. There's very few programs that require it, but you should check to make sure that the program you want to apply to doesn't require it. And some departments might have additional requirements. So for example, if you are wanting to do a master's or PhD in English literature or modern languages, they might want to see a writing sample from you as well as part of your application.
You actually reminded me, Nicole, to mention that, just to move back maybe a slide or two when we're talking about undergraduate admissions, I think that's the bit of a contrast there. So when you're looking at postgraduate studies, I see that there are a lot of kind of requirements, like Nicole mentioned, the main criteria, so GPA and IELTS, or other proof of English proficiency, but you have all these kind of like secondary factors that would be important to consider early on in the process. I think something very unique about our undergraduate programs in Canada, like as a general trend, is that admission really comes down to your high school or your transfer GPA. So again, coming back to the undergraduate side a little bit, we don't actually, for undergraduate programs, have any kind of, we don't look at references, no statement of purpose or essay for admission to undergraduate studies. You might find, like, I know of 3 universities in Canada now that look at some kind of supplementary essay, maybe specific programs too, but in general, admission to undergraduates largely based on academics as well as the proof of English proficiency. So, all right, so let's change gears a little bit again and talk about some of the tuition costs. So we'll give you an overview of tuition, and then I'm going to talk about scholarships as well. So you can see this is tuition for undergraduate programs. So Nicole will do tuition and graduate programs in a minute. Most programs are around 30,000. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more per year. So we introduced last fall what's called the guaranteed tuition rate. And I really like this because basically we've taken the total cost of your program and divided it to equal installments over 4 years. And that way, while I can't control exchange rates, I wish I could, we do give students and their families some level of certainty and predictability when it comes to the fees they'd be paying every year for the cost of their program. So you would be paying, again, that total program cost in 4 equal installments each year of your study. And this also gives you a bit of an estimate. Again, that international tuition anywhere from 27 to 40,000, depending on your program. About 3,500 for books, supplies. Fees, we mean things like your health and dental insurance plan, which is really important especially for international students. That's going to give you, the coverage is really good on that plan. So in Canada, coming to Alberta, you're covered for all of your medically necessary expenses. So your doctor's office, if anything happens and you need to go to the hospital. But those supplementary expenses would be things like prescription medication, vision, dental. The plan covers massage therapy, chiropractor visits, extra pairs of glasses. Like, it is, I would say, better than most employees' healthcare plans in the States. So it's pretty good. So you'll want to have that. It also covers things like your transit pass, access to student supports and resources on campus, access to fitness facilities as well. And then finally, we're going to talk about residence a little bit later. We have a wide number of residences, but this is a fee you can use to kind of estimate what a typical room plus meal plan would cost for your first year of studies. Again, this is undergraduate. And then the short link, uab.ca/costcalc. That's a great one to have. It's also available on our website. You can go there with your family. You can select what program you're looking at, where you'd like to live, and it will give you an estimate of your fees for your programs.
Yeah, and tuition for master's and PhD, we also have the guaranteed tuition rate. So once you receive admission to your program, your admission letter will include a summary and a breakdown of how much your tuition will be each year of your program. So for masters, they break it up into 2 years. And so for fees this year, this is what we're looking at per year. However, I will note for a course-based master's, it can really vary depending on the program. So this is just an average number. Programs like our Masters of Engineering and Masters of MBA, you're looking at more like $40,000 to $60,000. So living expenses, books, supplies, Again, the non-instructional fees, as Catherine was saying, that includes things like your health and dental insurance, your transportation pass, things like that. So yeah, for the master's, these fees are for 2 years is your guarantee. And for a doctoral program, the guarantee would be for 4 years. So you would have the same price for 4 years of that PhD program. So this is kind of just an estimated average based on this year's rates.
So I'm going to give an introduction to undergraduate scholarships. So these are scholarships really intended for students coming directly from high school, entering the first year of their program here at the University of Alberta. We offer a lot of funding to undergraduate students, and we have 2 types of scholarships. So we have 2 categories when you're entering university. So we call them entrance scholarships. If you are in your first, second, third years of your program going into the next year, we have continuing scholarships as well. But what I'm going to talk about today is for the entrance awards to the university. So again, those 2 categories, one is admission-based. So as long as you apply anytime during the application cycle, you would automatically be considered for up to about $15,000 in scholarship, dependent on, again, your GPA in the courses that are relevant to your program. Now, we do have, actually this year we typically have larger scholarships, and this year we introduced a much, much larger scholarship. So we have application-based awards. Again, those are larger amounts. This year we have the President's International Distinction Award. It is $120,000. So it's not a full scholarship, but it does in effect cover the majority of your tuition costs for those 4 years, depending on your program of choice. If not, maybe some of your living or extra expenses as well. When they first rolled it out, I thought, oh no, we're only going to have 1 or 2 of these because they're such large amounts. And I actually learned that we have several dozen of them, like in the 50s, I think, given that, you know, these are kind of intended for like students that are top in their school coming into their program. I think it's a really awesome number. So I think we're, in terms of like university and scholarship in Canada, we're definitely up there in terms of what we offer to students. So just to be aware, those application-based awards do have an earlier deadline. So for this year, the deadline has already passed. It was January 12th. If by chance you applied for that award, we are doing reviews this week and next. So your application might be in my inbox already. And we're going to let students know typically end of February or early March if they are the successful recipient of that award. And so keep in mind, if you're applying for future years, to make sure that you're aware of the earlier deadline to get both your application for admission and scholarship in on time. And so we're going to come back to housing. So as I mentioned, we do have that guaranteed housing if you want to live on campus. We have housing for across 12 residences for first year undergrad, upper year undergrad, master's and PhD students, families that are coming here for master's, PhD, and professional programs. Any type of housing situation, we have it covered here. We have, like, for example, Lister alone. So Lister is our first year dormitory complex, houses about 2,500 students across its 5 buildings. So we have a lot of spaces. There's a lot of advantage living on campus. I actually lived in residence my 4 years of study. It's really nice because you kind of take that like transportation factor out of it. You walk everywhere on campus. It's largely closed off to vehicles, and you can get to your class within 10 minutes. So, you know, less time on a bus or a train, more time in the library or socializing, I suppose. Within the residences, we do have meal plans, and we have all kinds of accommodations for students according to their dietary preferences. Anything to add about housing, Nicole? I think I covered the graduate piece.
I think it's good.
So I love this photo because it shows off a typical first-year dormitory. So you can see you have a twin or single-size bed with a good amount of desk space, which with storage above, plenty of floor space for all of your study groups, I'm sure. So this would be typically available to students either in their first year who live in dormitories, and we have a small number of upper year dormitory style housing as well. For most upper year students, as well as students coming for post-grad, it's more of apartment style housing. So you would have your own bedroom, and then you would share your kitchen and your living and bathroom spaces with anywhere from 1 to 4 other students.
Okay, so I'll talk a bit about the program I work in, so the sponsored student program. So what I mean when I say sponsored student is a student who has a scholarship from their home country. So I work with a lot of government scholarship programs, or maybe some of you might work in a university. A lot of universities will provide scholarships for their staff to do graduate, postgraduate studies abroad. So these are the types of students that I typically advise. And so this is a pretty unique program in Canada. It's kind of to provide specialized services to these students as well as their scholarship providers, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly in terms of your application process, tuition, invoicing, things like that. So if you are planning to apply for a scholarship from the government of Thailand, so for example, the Office of the Civil Service Commission, we receive students with those scholarships. Feel free to reach out to me and I can kind of guide you through the steps. Next slide. So just in terms of the things that I can assist sponsored students with, you know, as I was saying, it can be for postgraduate studies a bit confusing in terms of the admission requirements. So if you tell me kind of what you want to study, I can point you in the right direction and we can see and kind of assess if you meet the minimum requirements for the master's or PhD program that you want to take. I had mentioned that finding a supervising professor is pretty important if you are wanting to do a research-based master's or PhD program. So if you're going to have a scholarship from Thailand, I can kind of help you with that process. That way I can inform professors about your scholarship details as well, and any agreements we might have with your scholarship provider. I can kind of guide you through the application process. And if you have any deadlines in terms of your scholarship application, I can then make the department aware of those so that they can hopefully have an admission decision made before your scholarship deadline. And then I continue to be kind of a main point of contact for you and your sponsor throughout your degree program. So we also have here on campus an International Student Services Center. So this is the place to be, especially during that first year and that transition to Edmonton and campus. So they offer a lot of excellent supports for international students. You know, they have an airport pickup program and kind of people at the airport to welcome you for those of you arriving in August and September at the start of the school year. They have a 3-day orientation for all new international students to kind of, you know, just before classes start to kind of help you with that transition piece and settlement. And just it's a good opportunity to meet other international students who are kind of going through that same experience, and you can kind of build your social connections. We have specialized international student advisors. many of whom are certified immigration advisors. So if you are here and you need help with maybe renewing your study permit, your immigration documents, they can kind of guide you through that process. They can advise you on anything that might be coming up for you during your studies. If you are having issues with your academics, finances, questions about jobs, anything, they are kind of the go-to people that you can go to for support. And they also offer a lot of programming for students. So for example, they have an English conversation club that happens every Friday afternoon for international students and domestic students. Canadian students join that as well. It's a good opportunity to kind of meet new people and just have fun conversations. We have a reading club as well. And, you know, sometimes there'll be opportunities to join maybe trips to the mountains or other programming that they might offer throughout the year.
A little bit about sports and recreation. We have an absolutely massive number of sports facilities on campus. So, like, for example, a couple of years ago, we just built a brand new 2,000 square meter fitness center. And we have one of the largest indoor climbing walls at a university in North America. And whether you want to come here and play sports competitively, we have varsity teams, or maybe you're just looking to continue that kind of important aspect of your life, you know, being involved, being active. We have a lot of recreational intramural sports as well. So for example, you know, badminton, tennis, court sports, basketball, volleyball. We have indoor track, outdoor track. There's events and intramurals and competitions throughout the year. We also have 2 swimming pools. We have ice hockey, if that's something you want to try when you come here. We have lots of group fitness activities, and so all of it is accessible for students. And a lot of the cost of that are already built into your non-instructional fees. So definitely take advantage of that when you're here on campus. Oop. There we go. And I think a lot of students ask me, they're like, you know, what can we do on campus? And I'm like, we have 42,000 students, you know, what can't you do? Like, we have so much going on. And I think the balance, the difficulty sometimes is finding that balance in between, you know, your priority, you're here for studies, you're very academically focused, but also, you know, wanting to enjoy your time here in Canada, wanting to enjoy your time as a student. I think that's really important too. 400 student clubs to choose from, student groups, lots of events. If you're in residence, it's very active there as well. Canada, Edmonton, we're multicultural. We have a really diverse student body, not just in terms of where they come from and who they are or what they look like, but also in terms of their programs of study, what their background and their life experience has been. I think it makes for a really fun experience when you're here, whether you're here for undergraduate or graduate. And like Nicole said, you know, 40% of our graduate student population is international. And at the undergraduate level, it's a bit closer to maybe 15-20%, depending on the faculty, but it's also quite significant. So there's really no shortage of stuff to do while you're here on campus.
And we get asked a lot by students about working while studying. There's lots of different opportunities to kind of help you with this. So international students are able to work up to 20 hours per week, so part-time during your studies, and then full-time during the summer. As we mentioned, there's lots of opportunities if you want to incorporate work experience into your degree program. So if you want to access things like a co-op program or like internship type programs, there's so many faculties that are now incorporating that in their degree program if that's what you choose to do. There's also lots of opportunities to volunteer. So whether it's volunteering on campus for places like the campus food bank, or with our international student services team, kind of volunteering for events and things like that, and also community service learning opportunities as well. We actually have what they call CSL, so community service learning courses that you can choose to take, where there will be a component where you are to go into the community volunteering with an organization as part of your course. So it's kind of getting a very different type of experience in your academics. We also have a career center on campus, has multiple locations. They can support students with things like how to develop a resume or CV that meets Canadian employer standards, practicing job interviews. We have mock job interview sessions, how to write a cover letter for an employer here in Canada. So lots of supports here to support students with their job search goals. Catherine, the bottom bullet is blocked out on my screen. I can't see it, but.
Wow, that's so funny. So the last bullet point is TARA positions for postgrad students.
Thank you. Yeah. So for those of you planning to do a research-based master's or PhD program, there are lots of opportunities to apply for teaching assistant positions or research assistant positions. So those typically, they want to see how you do in your first semester in your courses, and they want to make sure you have a good grasp of the knowledge and material to be able to then move on to TA and RA positions in future semesters. So that's a great opportunity to get some experience and also, some extra income as well during your studies. And then another great opportunity for students who are studying in Canada is the post-graduation work permit. And what this means is after you complete your degree, so you can immediately apply for this work permit, which would allow you to work in Canada for up to 3 years to gain some work experience. So typically, I think the work permit is issued for the number of years that you studied, up to a maximum of 2 years. So if you do a 2-year master's, you'll get a work permit for 2 years. So this is a fantastic opportunity. You can work anywhere in Canada. If you want to explore other cities, that you can use that anywhere to kind of apply for positions in any field, really. Like it's not limited, but it's a great opportunity for you to use the skills and knowledge that you developed here at the University of Alberta to kind of go out and apply that in the industry. As I mentioned, we are second in Canada for postgraduate employment. So we talked about what that means. And part of the reason as to why is that we do a good job of preparing students for entering the workforce. So not only with the services that our career centers provide, those co-op opportunities, but for postgraduate students as well, there is a professional development requirement that all postgraduate students have to incorporate in their degree. So you have to think about during your program what your goals are after you graduate, and you're going to take different workshops, go to conferences, things like that throughout your master's and PhD to kind of meet that professional development goal by the time you graduate. And then, a lot of students like to take this opportunity, when they have this work experience, applying for permanent residency to Canada as well. So this is a great kind of pathway to that option. So just kind of summing up some of the highlights that we've kind of covered for you today in terms of why you might want to choose the University of Alberta to study in. We are highly ranked in the world, as I mentioned, not only among the top 100 in the world in general, but a lot of our programs and specializations are really well recognized and are among the top 10, 20, 50 in the world. International student scholarships, Catherine kind of talked about all the different opportunities that you have for that to kind of help finance your studies. The competitive and guaranteed tuition. So, that's a pretty unique feature for University of Alberta as well, in terms of kind of making sure that in advance what your tuition is going to be every single year, that you're not going to have these surprise jumps in fees during your studies. Guaranteed on-campus housing and just a wide variety of housing options that you can choose from, and those postgraduate employment rates as well.
So for the last few slides, I just want to quickly show off a little bit more of campus, and then we will have time for Q&A. So this is one of our recently renovated buildings called the Students Union Building. I love it because, as you can see, it's a great place to study, hang out, meet with friends. I think campus, we have 12 libraries on campus. We have coffee shops, restaurants, cafes. There's 4 Starbucks on campus. Or if you're like me and Starbucks kind of offends you, we have a lot of independent coffee shops as well. No shortage of restaurants and places to hang out in between classes. And a lot of student support services are available here in this building as well. Typical lab, we've got, the state-of-the-art technology. These are actually 2 graduate students. It's a more recent photo of them doing research. And then finally, this is one of our libraries. So this is Rutherford Library. My personal favorite thing about the library when I was a student is that they have different floors that have different levels of quiet. So for example, if you're doing a group project, you can be on one floor and there's lots of talking, normal volume. If you're a super quiet solo studier and you need absolute silence, you're not even allowed to eat, you could go to another floor and find that individual study space for you there as well. And with that, we will pass it back to IDP, but I just want to quickly mention, so we work very closely with IDP in the region. I absolutely recommend them without hesitation if you are looking to apply to University of Alberta. They're a great partner and source of information. We email quite regularly back and forth. So they're very knowledgeable, they're very helpful. If you would like to get in touch with either Nicole or myself, you can contact her for sponsored students and postgraduate questions at uaissp@ualberta.ca, and myself for undergraduate questions at kmelnyk@ualberta.ca. So thanks again for taking your Saturday to attend. Stick around if you have questions, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine and Nicole. It's very nice presentation and a lot of useful information. I think we get some question as well about, let me read the question to you. Okay. The first question is they just ask can the thesis base easier to get a job offer compared to the course base?
Well, it kind of depends on what kind of job you want to get afterwards. So if you are wanting to work in private industry or government or, that type of job after you graduate, a course-based program might be more helpful. If your long-term goal, if you want to do a PhD after, if you want to work in academia, if you want to become a university professor, then definitely a thesis-based master's is the way to go. If you think that maybe you might want to do a PhD program in the future, they typically want to see a student who has done a master's with some research component to it already.
Oh, that's great. I just have some questions from other students about the thesis base. It's like some students, they just want to apply for the engineering program, and then they have like the course base and the thesis base. And the program that they want is about the thesis base. And what they struggle is about like the response from the supervisor. Yeah, so and it's taking like over a month, and it's like they just want to know it's like what they can do with this. It's like because they cannot start the application process without the supervisor acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it can be tough. Even me sometimes trying to reach out to professors, sometimes I don't get responses either. And please don't take it personally. You know, honestly, it's just a matter of sometimes some professors, like I actually just was chatting with a professor today. He said he gets over a dozen requests for supervision a day. And so sometimes some professors just can't handle like the amount of requests they get. So, you know, if you want to improve your chances, like of catching their attention, the one thing I recommend is professors are not likely to respond to ones that don't really have a lot of information in the message. So include as much information as possible in your email. So in your attachments, include your CV, all your transcripts, your English score, so that they can see that you meet the minimum requirements. And then also, I always recommend to write a 1 to 2 page statement of research intent. So this is, you know, it's different from a research proposal. It's a bit more general, where you write it specifically to the professor, where you talk about why you want to do your master's with them, what about the professor's research interests you. You know, you can mention some publications they did that you might have read, and really kind of target it to that professor. And the reason I say that is because a lot of students will write one general statement that they can then submit to any professor at any university around the world. If you can target the statement to that one professor, that kind of shows them that you've done the work and you've done the research, you know about them. Professors are more likely to respond to those types of requests. And, you know, I always give professors about 2 weeks to respond, just because they are so busy. If you don't hear it 2 weeks, you can send a little reminder, but then maybe start working on a statement for your second choice professor and then continue on that way.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So I'm going to translate to them. สำหรับน้องๆนะคะที่ถามคำถามเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของ thesis base แล้วก็ในส่วนของ course base เนาะว่าระหว่าง thesis base กับ course base อันไหนที่จะสามารถหางานได้ง่ายกว่ากันนะคะก็จริงๆแล้วทางคุณนิโคลค่ะก็ได้แจ้งว่าจริงๆก็อยู่ที่จุดประสงค์ของการเรียนแล้วก็ในเรื่องของอาชีพในหลังจากเรียนจบนะคะก็ถ้าถามว่าถ้าน้องมีจุดประสงค์ต้องอาจจะต้องเรียนต่อในด้านของ research หรือว่า PhD นะคะหรือว่าต้องการที่จะทำงานเกี่ยวกับการเป็น professor ในอนาคตในมหาวิทยาลัยหรือว่าทำงานที่เกี่ยวกับด้านวิชาการต่างๆนะคะการเรียนในแบบรูปแบบในของ thesis base เนี่ยก็อาจจะตอบโจทย์กับน้องๆกลุ่มนี้นะคะแต่ว่าถ้าสมมติว่าน้องๆที่อาจจะไม่อาจจะเพียงเพื่อการทำงานเนาะอาจจะยังไม่ได้แน่ใจในส่วนของ PhD หรือว่าการเป็น professor ต่างๆนะคะก็อาจจะเลือกcourse base มากกว่าเนาะค่ะแล้วก็ทางพี่พึ่งเองนะคะก็ได้ถามเพิ่มเติมไปเนาะเกี่ยวกับว่าในเรื่องของการที่จะเรียนในรูปแบบของ thesis base เนี่ยคือเงื่อนไขก็คือการที่นักผู้สมัครอะค่ะจะต้องมีในส่วนของการมี supervisor ก่อนนะคะถึงจะสามารถเริ่มขั้นตอนในเรื่องของการสมัครเรียนได้เนาะตรงเนี้ยเขาก็ให้ทริคนะคะในการติดต่อ supervisor เนาะเพราะว่านักเรียนอาจจะต้องมีการเขียนตัว general statement นะคะประมาณ 1-2 หน้าเนาะมีการเขียนจบส่ง CV นะคะแล้วก็คุณสมบัติทั้งหมดของตัวนักเรียนเองนะคะอีเมลไปนะคะแล้วก็อาจจะต้องขอให้นักเรียนเนี่ยรอสักครู่เนาะสักระยะหนึ่งนะคะประมาณสัก2 อาทิตย์เนาะในการที่จะให้ทาง supervisor เนี่ย response กลับมานะคะแต่ว่าถ้ามัน take time มากกว่านั้นนะคะก็อยากให้น้องเนี่ยได้เตรียมตัวนะคะในการที่จะดูsupervisor หรือ professor คนที่2ได้นะคะในกรณีที่อาจจะต้องสำรองเขียนไปแนะนำตัวไว้นะคะค่ะก็อันนี้จะเป็นคำถามเกี่ยวกับด้าน thesis base กับ course base นะคะค่ะ Actually, we got another question as well about the master degree and the co-op program. It's totally 2 years, right? And it's like there was one to know is like if they study master degree without the co-op program, it can be easier than to get a job than with the co-op program or.
So a co-op program with a master's degree?
Yeah, like the master degree without co-op program and master degree with co-op program, which one is easily to get a job?
So for most of our master's degrees, like there's not a lot of co-op programs kind of to incorporate in a master's degree. Our Faculty of Graduate Studies, they do have kind of an internship option that you can incorporate. It's kind of up to students to try and find those opportunities if they want to incorporate that into their master's degree. But I would say the vast majority of students don't do kind of a co-op in the master's degree. Like you can choose to do it in the summer. In terms of opportunities for jobs, having that work experience, especially if it's in the industry, would certainly help you after you graduate. So it might give, a slight advantage. But I would say, as a master's student, you're quite busy with courses, and especially if you're doing research as well. So I would say the majority of students don't choose to have that option as part of their master's program.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So and how about like as a co-op program is a part of the master degree, so how students gonna connect it with the work industry, like how they gonna get a job like during the co-op program? So the university gonna help them with that.
Yeah, so we have like with the Faculty of Graduate Studies, like their internship program, there is like an advisor there. But if students are looking for an internship placement, a good place to start is our Career Center, because they have those connections with industry and organizations in the province and the city. And some faculties have their own career centers like engineering and business, so they have more specialized connections. So if students are looking for an internship opportunity, our career centers are the best places to get support with that.
โอเค thank you ก็สำหรับน้องๆนะคะที่ถามคำถามเกี่ยวกับในเรื่องของตัว co-op โปรแกรมนะคะที่เป็นส่วนหนึ่งของตัวหลักสูตรปริญญาโทเนาะก็จริงๆแล้วว่าค่ะเขาก็ทางคุณนิโคก็ได้แนะนำว่าการที่เราเรียนหลักสูตรที่มีในส่วนของ co-op โปรแกรมเนี่ยมันเหมือนเราได้ในเรื่องของตัว experience working experience มาด้วยหรือว่ามีประสบการณ์การทำงานซึ่งมันก็จะเป็นการเหมือนได้เก็บสะสมเรื่องประสบการณ์งานเกี่ยวกับสิ่งที่เราเรียนมานะคะแล้วก็เหมือนได้ add on ในเรซูเม่ของเราด้วยเนาะที่เราสามารถที่จะช่วยเพิ่มโอกาสของเราในการที่จะหางานทำหลังจากเรียนจบด้วยนะคะค่ะแล้วก็นอกจากนี้น้องๆหลายคนอาจจะมีคำถามว่าแล้วเรื่องของโคออปเนี่ยคือทางมหาลัยเนี่ยจะมีบทบาทในการเข้ามาช่วยเหลือเรายังไงบ้างในเรื่องของการหางานหรือการได้ไปฝึกงานกับทางอินดัสทรีหรือ organization ต่างๆนะคะตรงส่วนนี้จริงๆทั้งทางคณะเองนะคะก็จะมีในเรื่องของ partner industry partner ให้กับช่วยเหลือนักเรียนด้วยนะคะรวมถึงในเรื่องของทางอลัมไมของแต่ละคณะด้วยนะคะที่อาจจะเข้ามาแบบแนะนำนะคะว่าทางบริษัทหรือองค์กรที่เขากำลังทำอยู่เนี่ยต้องการหาเด็กฝึกงานหรืออะไรเงี้ยนะคะก็ตรงนี้ก็จะเป็นโอกาสหนึ่งเหมือนกันนะคะในเรื่องของการที่มหาวิทยาลัยจะช่วยเหลือนักเรียนในเรื่องของการที่จะหางานเกี่ยวกับ co-op เนาะค่ะI think we got question about the English language requirement. Yeah, so they just want to know is like if they cannot meet the entry requirement, like do you offer them like an English language program or not?
Yeah, so is this for master's or bachelor? I guess maybe we can talk about both.
Yeah. Okay, can we talk about both?
Yeah, so for master's and PhD, again, it kind of depends on the program, but I would say the majority for master's and PhD, you have to meet that minimum requirement at the time that you apply. We do have an English language school that has some specialized courses like an English for Graduate Studies course, but the expectation is that you complete that course and then apply so that they can see that you meet the requirement at the time that you apply. Catherine, I don't know if you want to chat about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will actually just pull that link so students have the reference. So like Nicole said, we do have like English kind of like bridging or upgrading programs or preparation programs, but students typically need to have IELTS or TOEFL. Duolingo can be used as well. We would use that initial score to place them in the appropriate level. So I will grab that link. And I'm sorry, I'm just being mindful of time because it is getting a little bit late here. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So I'll let you choose the best ones. And if you don't have your question answered today, you can definitely email us or IDP and we'd be happy to help.
ค่ะก็ตอนนี้เราจะเหลือน่าจะถามคำถามได้อีกประมาณ1-2คำถามนะคะที่พี่พึ่งจะเลือกขึ้นมาถามคุณนิโคกับคุณแคทเธอรีนนะคะก็ในส่วนนี้สำหรับน้องที่ถามในเรื่องของการเรียนเรื่องของการเรียนปรับพื้นฐานภาษาอังกฤษถ้าในกรณีที่คะแนนภาษาอังกฤษของน้องเนี่ยอาจจะยังน้อยกว่าเกณฑ์ที่ทางคณะระบุนะคะซึ่งในส่วนของตัว Master Degree แล้วก็ PhD เนี่ยทางคุณนิโคก็ตอบมาเลยว่าอันนี้ก็คืออยากจะแนะนำให้คะแนนภาษาอังกฤษเนี่ยเป็นไปตามเกณฑ์ที่คณะระบุนะคะก็ถ้าพูดตามตรงก็คือว่าไม่แนะนำให้นักเรียนได้คะแนนน้อยกว่าเกณฑ์ที่ต้องการนะคะเพราะว่าอาจจะไม่มีในเรื่องของการเรียนปรับพื้นฐานเนาะแต่ว่าในส่วนของปริญญาตรีเนี่ยก็จะยังสามารถที่จะมีคอร์สเรียนพื้นฐานให้นะคะค่ะ I think I should the best question is about the scholarship criteria that I want to know.
And so I know that I touched on undergraduate scholarships, but it seems like students had some questions about scholarship for master's, PhD.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I will say for a course-based master's, there's not a lot of scholarships. There's very few and they're very competitive. So it will kind of depend on your GPA as to whether you could get a scholarship for a course-based master's. And they're typically just partial scholarships. So just meant to help cover some of the tuition costs. Most funding for postgraduate studies is for students doing research-based master's or PhD. And, that's typically, again, it's dependent on the department you're going to study in. Unfortunately, there's no straight answer for postgraduate studies. Typically for fields like engineering, science, medicine, they tend to have a bit more funding and higher funding levels than programs in like arts or education. But for students in research-based programs, if they view you as a competitive applicant and they want you to join their program, they are likely to make you a funding offer. You won't really know exactly how much that will be until after you are admitted to the program. So after you are admitted, they will then send you some information on the funding that you would be eligible for. So then you're able to kind of make a decision on whether or not you want to accept that funding or not.
Okay, thank you. ค่ะน้องๆค่ะก็ในส่วนของตัว scholarship นะคะก็จริงๆถ้ามันก็อาจจะค่อนข้างมีความแข่งขันกันนะคะแต่ว่าก็คือเขาก็จะมีในส่วนลดตรงนี้ให้นะคะซึ่งตรงนี้ถ้าน้องเนี่ยสนใจนะคะในเรื่องของทุนการศึกษาแล้วก็สนใจที่สมัครเรียนนะคะง่ายๆเลยในการติดต่อนะคะกับทาง IDP ทั้ง2ศูนย์นะคะทั้ง IDP กรุงเทพแล้วก็ IDP เชียงใหม่นะคะก็ถ้าน้องเห็นตัว QR code ที่ขึ้นอยู่ตรงแบ็คกราวด์ของพี่พึ่งนะคะก็คือสามารถที่จะแอดไลน์นะคะสแกน QR code นี้นะคะแล้วก็สามารถติดต่อสอบถามได้เพราะวันนี้ต้องขอโทษด้วยที่ทางเราอาจจะไม่สามารถลิสต์คำถามทั้งหมดให้กับทางคุณนิโคลและคุณแคทเธอรีนได้นะคะเนื่องจากว่าใกล้หมดเวลาของงานสัมมนานี้แล้วนะคะก็น้องๆคนไหนที่มีคำถามนะคะไม่ต้องห่วงเลยติดต่อทาง IDP นะคะแล้วก็ IDP เนี่ยจะเขียนคำถามนี้นะคะไปถามกับคุณนิโคลแล้วก็คุณแคทเธอรีนให้นะคะก็เดี๋ยวพี่ๆแนะแนวของเราเนี่ยจะสามารถเข้ามาซัพพอร์ตตรงส่วนนี้ได้นะคะก็ Thank you so much Nicole and Katherine. Thank you for your time and sharing a lot of useful information for our Thai students and IDP students. I think we may have a lot of questions for you after this, so we're gonna like maybe email you about that question.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for having us and spending your Saturday morning with us.
Yeah, sure. so we made like it should be the end of the time, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much,
much.
everyone.
Yeah.
ค่ะก็ขอบคุณน้องๆมากนะคะขอบคุณที่เข้าร่วมงานกับเรานะคะสำหรับวันนี้งานสัมมนาของ University of Alberta นะคะก็ได้จบลงแล้วนะคะก็อย่าลืมนะคะติดต่อทาง IDP ได้นะคะถ้าสนใจจะสมัครเรียนเพราะว่าใกล้ที่จะถึงช่วงเวลาของ application deadline แล้วนะคะถ้าน้องคนไหนนะคะแบบ document ready แล้วนะคะก็ contact IDP Thailand ได้เลยนะคะสำหรับการส่งใบสมัครมาเดี๋ยวพี่พึ่งพี่แพรนะคะจะช่วยดูแลเรื่องใบสมัครให้ค่ะขอบคุณนะคะสำหรับการร่วมงานกับเราในวันนี้นะคะแล้วก็พบกันในงานหน้านะคะก็ติดตาม IDP ได้เลยนะคะเดี๋ยวเรามีงานอีเวนต์ดีๆเว็บมินาดีๆแบบนี้ให้น้องๆอยู่เรื่อยๆนะคะขอบคุณนะคะขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you very much Nicole and Katherine.
Thank you. Bye.